And they said that he would fail to come home. Well, I'll say this in their defense. I don't think they know who Christopher Nolan is. Cut to Odyssey review. Now, if you came here to hear uh, Christopher Nolan slander, I got bad news and I got good news. Good news is there's probably a plenty of that on YouTube. I will not be your critic for any of that. On the whole, I actually really enjoyed the Odyssey. Now, I did get to see it the way it's meant to be seen, as Christopher Nolan intended, on IMAX screen in my nearest city, um, close to the Utah, Idaho area. Um, it took me about an hour and 45 minutes to drive there just to see the Odyssey, but I think it was well worth the drive. At least for me, it was. I had a lot of fun, seeing it the way that he meant to see. I did not get to see it on the 70 millimeter screen. I got to see it on the original. I think it's about 60 to 30. So, I mean, I didn't get to see it on the huge IMAX screens because I'm not close enough to anywhere that has it. But I did get to see this film in IMAX. I'm going to see it again this upcoming weekend on the 4:3 ratio normal digital screen in normal theaters, like a lot of you will probably be seeing this film. I'll have to let you know maybe in a short video how that goes. But I do feel like it's well worth the drive if you're anywhere near a IMAX theater, even if it's an hour or two away. It's definitely worth the drive to go see it while it's still in IMAX. It is doing extremely well at the box office. In fact, it has hit just over, I think, a couple to $3 million over the last opening weekend. It did extremely well opening. It's projected to hit $1 billion. It is the biggest live action opening that we've had this year for a live action film. And I don't know if there are a lot of films that can claim that. Now, let's talk about an actual review. A lot of people will tell you that this is Christopher Nolan's best film. I still think that position belongs to The Dark Knight. Obviously, if you watch my previous video that I just posted about the best movies ever done, you'll understand why I'm saying that. But if you didn't, it's still one of his highest rated films. This one came in, I think, at a 97 or a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, making it one of the best highly rated films that we've actually had this year. But I don't think it's Nolan's best. I do think it is Nolan's um, most pure film. Just technically, this one would be right up there technically with for me, along with like Oppenheimer and Interstellar, as far as like technical work and just the absolute art that he brings to the breathtaking production design and stunning cinematography. Obviously, we still had Hoyt van Hoytema working on behind the camera for the cinematography for this one, along with Christopher Nolan. We also had Ludwig von Göransson on the musical soundtrack, which is powerful. A lot of people had fears that Travis Scott's Bard would be rapping. He does have a special wrap-up song at the end for the credits, which I actually thought was fun for the type of story that this film was telling. But ultimately, he was not distracting in the film for the all of like maybe 2 minutes that he's on screen at the beginning of the film. I think he brought a really cool opening to the first couple of scenes. That being said, the beating beneath the heart of this tragedy in exile is Christopher Nolan's filmography of this film. It's definitely rounded out beautifully with the Odyssey, a distinctly Nolan spin on this story and on a hero's truth. The film serves as both a defense of legacy and an ode to decades of war epics, while confronting the doubts of an ever-changing society inside the story that the Odyssey actually tells, along with the fact that it actually does a really good job of making fun commentary on our current political climate. It's actually something that I put in my physical notes for this film, was just the fact that I put in there that it's very good to the current state of just the world at large. I don't want to spoil it for you, so I won't go too much further into that. This film definitely dips into some really interesting things as far as like theming. There's actually a bit of body horror and straight up monster horror in this film. The body horror belongs to Cersei, who's played by Samantha Morton. She is the witch during this film, and there's a very cool body horror scene that she's in this film. I don't want to spoil that again, but there's a lot of really cool like on-site filming that they do throughout this film that make it really hard not to love. They filmed it in Iceland, in Ireland, in Italy. Italy was mostly for Ithaca. Same thing with Ireland. In some of the foothill scenes. Iceland was specifically for the scene in Hades, which I don't want to ruin, so I just won't. But it's definitely epic. A lot of people had concerns I wanted to address about, both Lady Helen of Troy and Elliot Page's character. It took me a minute to remember because they were such non-characters for me. I mean, Elliot Page has the most to do with pushing the plot forward, but even his character was nothing to, wag a finger at. I think it's overhated in a lot of ways. I feel like it was just a little bit of an overreaction for both Helen of Troy and, Elliot Page's character in this film. They're both in the film for maybe 10-15 minutes together. Like on screen they share about maybe 15 minutes of screen time combined, so not a lot going on there. The majority of the time does belong to Elliot, but I don't feel like he was egregious. I feel like the choice to cast him was not something that Christopher Nolan needs to apologize. Now, you can disagree with me on that. I just feel like it's something that needs to be said for people still on the fence because of the internet outrage on that specifically. I don't see it. But it is a story that exposes the tragedy of believing that power and political position are worth pursuing at any cost when humanity is stronger, unconquered, and united than it is ravaged by war, lust, and the endless desire for dominance. This is a true cautionary tale for generations. And I do feel like there were a lot of really cool just production things I could talk about. All the scenes at sea that were shot on a boat are very practical and very just heartbreaking. A lot of this film, you do spend a lot of time feeling for Matt Damon's Odysseus, and you do feel like Antinous or Robert Pattinson is a good foil, and kind of tears apart the whole story from the inside. Another standout for me in this movie were John Bernthal and John Leguizamo as Emmaus and Menelaus, respectively. Another standout for me was Charlize Theron as Calypso and Zendaya as Athena. They all do really good jobs. Unfortunately, I didn't find a lot of praise in Tom Holland. He does okay. He tried, but ultimately it was a lot of the film belonged to Penelope, and Hathaway, Matt Damon, and most of the other cast. Even Himesh Patel as Eurylochus. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize, but that is a Greek name. But they did a really, really good job just casting this and giving it very solid storytelling throughout the visuals. I don't feel like It was egregious. The costumes were there. I think the only thing that for me was weak a little bit. I even have this in my notes. Um, Ultimately, I do feel like the only thing that was a little weak at times was the screenplay. Um, it was just a little underwritten and at times overpowered by just the surrounding sound in the actual movie. Was just a little bit overpowering. And then, when you weren't dealing with surrounding moments, there were just like, I mean, even some of the language choices, just phonetically and just even from a standpoint of like using vulgarity, felt very out of place in this film at some points. Wasn't enough for me to like write this film off entirely, but there were just moments where I felt like, does that need to be there? So ultimately, I'll wrap it up this way. If you have the chance, go support this one in theaters. It's gonna do fine, even if you don't and you disagree with me. Um, it's a really good film. I think it's definitely a case of judging a film before it comes out, just based on some light trailer editing and different things like that. I think ultimately the finished product is amazing. It's heartbreaking. It's a war epic for the centuries. I think it will definitely be up for a lot of awards, including Best Picture, Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Sound Design, along with, I think Matt Damon will get nominated for lead actor. I can also see Robert Pattinson getting the same nomination. I do think this one will get a lot of the awards, which leads me to something I want to rant about just for a minute. Unfortunately, I think The Odyssey and Project Hail Mary have this year's Best Picture nominees and awards all wrapped up. If one of them doesn't take it, then the other will. It'll be a lot like Sinners and One Battle After Another last year, where it's just kind of a wrap on anybody else winning anything. So I could be wrong about that. I hope I am, because there's a lot of independent variables this year that I'd love to see win, and it's still a very long year in the cinema. And the summer is being capped off extremely well with The Odyssey. So overall, I give it 10 stars. Or a 10 out of 10, 5 stars, confetti cannon, whatever you want to hear. It's a really good movie. Ultimately, I'd say go see it. Take the time to go find an IMAX if you can. If you cannot, maybe don't worry about that specifically, but just take the time to actually go see this film. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Sorry, I had an alarm going off. I didn't turn it off. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time, if somehow I get lost at sea and I never come back to Ithaca, at least we have this hope that me, will see you at the movies. All right. Peace out, homies. Catch you later.